Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Joycelyn Curtis. This video is going to be about macros. Macros is one of the most talked about topics in the fitness industry, so you've probably heard about it all over social media, but in this video I'm going to break it down very briefly into what macros are, how to log them, how to track them, how to find a good macro split for you, when you should change them, and a little bit more. Finding a good process for you to get a handle on your nutrition really determines on a couple of factors: your personality, your goals, and mostly your level of discipline. Counting macros, I'm not gonna lie, is a little bit tedious and does take some time. But once you understand the process and how to calculate your macros and make those adjustments moving forward, will really help you get a good handle on your nutrition regardless of what your goals are. So I know for me personally, it has been one of the most efficient processes that I have tried to get me the most success in my goals when they change every 6 to 8 months, whether I'm bulking up or toning down. The process of counting macros stays the same, which makes it a lot less overwhelming, and you just have to make those adjustments as you go along. So let's get into what macros are. The term macro is short for macronutrients. Macro also means large, so they are nutrients that you need to consume in a large quantity on a daily basis. You have 3 nutrients that are considered macronutrients: carbs, proteins, and fats. The term macro split simply just refers to how many grams of each macronutrient you're allotted per day. I get a common question about why would counting macros be more efficient than counting calories. So counting calories, let's say you give yourself 1,800 calories to eat in one day's time. You can fill those daily intake calories with literally anything under the sun, and you may not be able to supply your body with the proper nutrients that you need given the activity level that you're putting out in that day. So counting macros is kind of the same thing as counting calories, just in a little bit different way, in the sense that you're making sure that A, you're eating enough calories in the day, B, you're also making sure that you're giving your body nutritious food with the right nutrients of each to supplement your muscles and your energy levels based on whatever your goals are. So your first macro, carbs. For every 1 gram of carb equals 4 calories. Carbs obviously is where the body gets most of your energy levels throughout the day. So when you think of carbs, what do you think of? Rice, bread, and pasta. What most people forget is that vegetables is also a carb. Vegetables is a bodybuilder's hack to having a plate full of food when you have a low carb diet. But because vegetables are so fibrous, they don't break down the same way like your simple carbs do, like rice, bread, and pastas. Although you need a lot of fiber for proper digestion, it's not considered a macronutrient because it's not broken down and used as energy in the body. So when counting macros, many fitness professionals, including myself, don't count your greens or any vegetables as your carb intake for a day's time. Next, you have protein. Just like carbs, for every 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories. You have your basic proteins like turkey, egg whites, chicken, ground beef, or even fish. So let's say you have other dietary restrictions, like you're a vegetarian or you're vegan. You're thinking of lentil beans, quinoa, tofu, tempeh, all great sources of protein. Protein is very important because when you're working out or you're expending any kind of activity during the day, you're breaking down those muscle fibers and connective tissues within your body. And the most efficient way to supplement those muscle tears is with sources of protein. Your last macro is fats. For every 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. Now, that sounds a little scary because it's more than double the amount of calories that carbs or proteins has. But fats is still a macronutrient for a reason, so don't shy away from it. It is important to just keep track of how much fat you're eating and what type of fats you're eating. So the healthiest types of fats that I would recommend are oils, olive oil, vegetable oil, any kind of nut butters like peanut butter or almond butter, egg yolks, avocado, and any kind of nuts. My favorite are pistachios. So another common question that I get is, how do I determine what macro split is right for me? That's not something that I'm able to recommend to all of you right now, just because there's so many factors that go into it. First and foremost though, the biggest factor that you need to determine is, what are your goals? Are you looking to lose weight? and tone up? Are you looking to gain weight and bulk up? Or are you just looking to have a better nutrition in general? So along with determining your goals, another factor that goes into calculating your macro split is your age and your gender. Once you determine your goal, the next step to do is determine your BMR. BMR stands for Basal Metabolic Rate. And what that means is basically the amount of calories that your body needs to operate at minimal activity level. For example, if you sat on the couch all day and did nothing, your body would burn X amount of calories in that day, having done absolutely nothing. So the website that I use to find my BMR is calculator.net. I put the link in the description box below so you can go and look at your own BMR. I like that website the best because A, it's free, and B, there is a chart on the website that takes into account your daily activity level, which I think every site needs to, and most of them don't, which doesn't make sense to me. If you have person A who works out on a daily basis, their metabolism is naturally going to be higher than person B who has never worked out in the past 10 years. Because macro counting is kind of a trial and error basis, at least at the beginning, until you figure out what works better with your body. For example, there's some people who have a keto diet, so you have a very low to no carb diet, and carbs is a macronutrient. And if you are a keto person and you need low to no carbs, then that's something that you need to determine for yourself. But the most common introductory macro counting split that I have seen is 30% per macro to start and alter from there. So what does that mean? Let's do some math. Let's say that you're giving yourself 1,800 calories for the day. You have 3 macronutrients. Take that 1,800 calories and divide it by 3. So you'll have 600 calories per macronutrient. Now, like I said, each 1 gram of macronutrient equates to a certain amount of calories. So you have your carbs. You take your 600 calories, divide it by 4 because there's 4 calories in 1 gram of carb, which would give you 150 grams of carbs for a day. Apply that same equation to protein because 1 gram of protein also equals 4 calories. So you also have 150 grams of protein a day. Fats is where things change up a little bit. If you remember, I said 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. So you take your 600 calories, divide it by 9, which gives you 67 grams of fat. Obviously, because every 1 gram of fat is more than double what 1 gram of proteins and carbs equals, you will have significantly less grams of fat in a day's time to intake. But as far as the calories are concerned, they do equal out. So I know for me in my competitive fitness prep, there's some days where I wake up and I feel very ahead of schedule. And then there's other days where I feel I'm very behind schedule. And I know myself, if I was in charge of my own macros, I would change them that morning to try to either catch up or get ahead of wherever I felt in the moment. And that's not the way that you should go about counting your macros. With anything in fitness, it's a journey. It's not an overnight sprint. So you need to set a consistent program, let your body learn that new habit, make those changes and adapt to that program before you make any more changes to then move your progress forward. So taking that into consideration, it is very convenient to have somebody from the outside of your emotions, all the hard work you're putting into it to get to your goals, a third-party perspective to really help narrow in what you need to do to make sure that you're hitting everything on point and getting to your goals. So how do you log your macros? I log my macros on MyFitnessPal, and I do it for free, although it does have an extra premium to actually get the macro version of the app. But I'll show you my hack on how I log all my macros for free on the app. There's a lot of apps out there that try to get you to pay for it, and paying for the app is not necessarily not worth it, because what you're paying for is to help you make those calculations. But the app is also still generic. It does not necessarily take into account maybe a bump in the road that is not normal that happened to you, that a actual person who can understand and make those adjustments for you moving forward so that you don't go backwards in your progress. But I'll show you my diary and how I log all of my food to get my macros by grams on a daily basis for free. Okay, so this is the MyFitnessPal app diary. It's obviously not filled out yet, but once this is all filled out, the best way to log your food and your macros free so you can see what exactly it is that you've logged in the day, you go all the way down to the bottom, nutrition tab. push nutrition, and it gives you a pie chart and it breaks it down on all 3 macros in grams. You can see down there is the premium feature if you wanted to actually pay for it, but this is just a little hack to where you can see what your total is in percentages based on your goal, and you can set your goals in the settings, and then next to each of the macros it tells you how many grams that you've eaten that day. So this is for tomorrow and it's empty, so obviously I haven't eaten any. And then if you wanted to in nutrients, it breaks down all of your nutrients as well, so your fiber, your sugar, any saturated fats, cholesterol, sodium, and then the last one at the end is calories. So if you wanted to see which meal of the day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, or snack, you had the most calories, or you had the most carbs, or anything, it'll break it down for you here as well. So before I wrap this video up, I have a few do's and don'ts when it comes to counting macros for you. Weigh out all of your food. Because macros is counted down to the gram, weighing out your food to make sure that everything you're eating is in fact accurate to the gram is very important, because you don't want to obscenely overeat on your macros or even obscenely undereat on your macros. If you're undereating, that is also a problem. Which brings me to my second must do. Try to hit all of your macros. I do have a rule of thumb, 5 grams per macronutrient above or below on a daily basis is an okay buffer, but if you're under eating, you're not supplementing your body with enough nutrients for the energy expenditure that you're given for the goals that you have determined to get your macro split to begin with. So under eating is almost as equal to a problem as overeating. So trying to hit those macros to a point and by weighing out all your food are 2 very high must-dos when it comes to counting macros. The last must-do is to make sure you're tracking all of your condiments and supplements. So in the morning I take supplements like vitamin C, fish oil, I have a probiotic. All of those things are supplements that I track because there are carbs and protein in those supplements, as well as the condiments. So any kind of condiments that you put on your food, definitely track, because those calories add up to a lot at the end of the week, and they do have carbs, fats, and proteins. And by using sugar-free products can really help you get those into your macro split to fit, so that way your food is not tasteless and boring. That's just something very important to look at when you're getting any condiments, is look at the nutrition labels, look at the amount of grams per serving size, and make sure you're tracking it by the serving size. I really only have 2 don'ts when it comes to counting macros. The first thing is, don't assume that your macro split is going to apply to anyone else. On the other hand of that statement, please don't take someone else's macro split and assume that it is going to apply to you. Even if you and that other person have the same goals, you may not have the same body type, you may not process foods the same way. So just keep that in mind, that every macro split, which is kind of the reason why I'm not making any recommendations to anybody, is very dependent on a single person, and it is not something to be mass distributed. My last don't when it comes to counting macros is don't feel guilty for logging food. If you have something that puts you way over your macros, log it anyways, just to make sure that your diary is accurate. So that way when you're looking at your results at the end of the week, you know why you spiked up or you spiked down. Maybe you overate on something and you had a better reaction than you thought you would, and your progress even went more forward. If you didn't log it, how would you know that that was the reason why that result came about? When you feel guilty about logging food, it does nothing productive. All it does is mess with your psyche, might demotivate you, and it just throws you off your entire process. So if you have a piece of chocolate cake and it puts you over your macros, enjoy that chocolate cake and just make your changes later on in the week if you need to. Thank you for tuning in with me. I hope that you learned something today. If you enjoyed my video, give me a big thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments that maybe I didn't touch on in this video because it was kind of brief, go ahead and drop a comment below and I'll get right back to you. And if you would like to continue following me and my journey and all the information that I want to bring to you in the future, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below. Thanks guys, I'll see you real soon.